So one of the things I want to get into is just your overall approach on dialing in your sound. I see you brought your pedal board with you, which is looking fantastic, by the way. I have so many questions. I know we won't have enough time to go through all of it, but maybe just the fundamentals. Because when I saw you perform, when we did the shoot the other day, or yesterday, you really used the board as an instrument. I saw you interacting, turning knobs, and man, it's been such a long time since I've seen that. Like, I think of Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead, you know? So it was so great to see things dialed in that really were just not like, okay, I have a chorus on. Well, it had a very distinct thing, and it sounded like you. Cool. So I wanted to get your take on, like, you know, you show up to a gig, what do you do? What are you looking for? What are your go-to, you know, meat and potatoes kind of thing, you know, for setting up your tones? Right.
So my board is almost like, it's as important as my guitar, I would say, in my sound. Yeah. I love pedals and creating different soundscapes with pedals. But so I go into a clean amp. It's got to be clean. It can't be overdriven at all because I want these 7 core sounds that I have to shine through that preamp.
And those are mostly you've got overdrives and distortions and some fuzzes.
Yeah, so I've got a fuzz. It's a dirt transmitter with a Earthquaker Devices tentacle underneath the board.
Yeah.
But it's an octave pedal, and it sounds not great by itself, but when you pair it before a fuzz, it really brings out this high end that I love, especially in the neck pickup. So
killer, yeah.
Yeah, and that octave is really cool because you hear it on the neck pickup a lot, but if I switch to the bridge, kind of crazy.
Nice.
So it's like it sustains a lot too. I love the neck pickup. I'm on there a lot. The next sound I have is an OCD. It's just a kind of a medium gain drive.
Classic.
And then a Klon, a KTR, which I love. That pedal is kind of the, I guess, the role model for all other pedals volume-wise.
Okay.
So, because something about the Klon, it's so special to me because it's got this perfect mid-range for what I'm doing. So.
Gotcha.
You hear like the full frequency and it like sticks out, you know. And so I don't need an EQ with that thing.
I was going to say it kind of tightens up some of the low end too when you're on the end.
Yeah, so that's like, I say my cleanest tone is that KTR that's slightly overdriven.
We did ask you this yesterday. I was like, did you want a clean tone on the amp? You're like, I don't really use the clean. So real quick before I get to the fuzz, you said something about the dirt fuzz. You put something else on in front of it or after it, was it that you were saying?
It's right before it.
Right before it. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like hitting the fuzz to because it's interesting with fuzz pedals, you know, a lot of the like legendary fuzz tones that we hear on recordings, you know, they're going through like a cranked amplifier. And I remember like, you know, just trying out a fuzz pedal for the first time, like a fuzz face or something, and putting it through like a clean amp, and it was like terrible.
Yeah, it really
ripped my head off.
Yep. And that's why I love EQ. Like, if someone were to say, what's your most necessary pedal, it's EQ. Because
that's a big one,
because fuzz naturally gives you that mid-range scoop, and you're not going to be heard. You have to pump those mids to fit in a mix and also be heard.
And you've got 2 EQs going, I see.
Yeah,
wow.
I've got an EQ for each overdrive. So the fuzz has an EQ after it to sculpt, take some of the lows out, pump the mids, take a little bit of the high end out.
That's smart, yeah.
The OCD also has an insane amount of low end, and it's crazy. Like,
wow.
So
wow, okay. Yeah, that's almost all the way off almost. Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. Especially with this guitar. If I was playing, you know, a Strat or a Tele, it'd be a lot different.
You would shape it differently. That's a good point. I mean, I think that's a good EQ tip for anyone that's watching as well that may be new to EQ. Don't be afraid to, you know, tailor it towards whatever guitar or amp you're playing. I mean, it's a great tool for that. There isn't a wrong setting, but, you know, like Emily just said, she uses it to doctor up or to modify the sound that's coming out of a pedal in general. So sometimes when we think something might not work out, I mean, an EQ is a great way to. I also look at it as a good way to switch guitars, like what you just said. Like if I'm going from a guitar like this to a P90s or single coils, it's also a great way just to like shift real quick, so it's not. I think Billy Gibbons does a little bit of that where he keeps the EQ kind of consistent.
Yeah.
No matter what guitar he's playing, kind of thing.
Right.
So that's super smart. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because sometimes I think, why would I get a pedal that, you know, so the OCD has a ton of low end.
Yeah.
And by itself, it's a bit unusable if I don't have EQ. But I love the way it feels under the fingers so much, and it doesn't compress my amp. So that's why I have to have that pedal. The only way to use it is to sculpt the EQ. So that it's necessary, but I mean, it really, you can turn a drive into whatever you need it to be with an EQ pedal.
That totally, I totally agree with that. That's super true. And the amp wise, since you're using, in case you know whoever's not watching realizes, you know, you're touring, you're playing live a lot, you're probably getting to a place, as everyone know, you know, if you don't know, it's definitely a lot cheaper to not, you know, travel with your equipment because you're paying for the travel fees of cartage, you know. So a lot of times venues will have backline amps. So you're usually seeing an amp where you know, it might just be something that you have to set usually clean, right? Yeah. Because again, she's bringing her pedal board with her. That's her paint box with all her paints in there. It's her tool. It's your toolbox.
Yeah, it's a canvas, I think. Yeah,
so you can go wherever you want, and you know, dial in, and you're gonna dial in your amp pretty clean.
Yep.
Get the volume you need, maybe a little reverb, and then the pedals can do the talking for you.
Right.
As opposed to you having to grab, you know, whatever amps you're using and lug those around.
Yeah.
This came in a pretty big case.
I know.
I saw that.
It's as small as I could get it. It's 47 pounds.
Right under
right under that 50-pound mark where it's, you know, they'll charge you an oversized baggage fee if you're flying.
Yeah.
So it's 47, nailed it. And the thing is, it's like, I haven't changed these pedals in 2 or 3 years.
That's great.
Which is crazy because when I started getting into pedals, I had to trial and error everything. I bought so many pedals and sold them even sometimes the next day on Reverb, just to try them and really find what worked for me.
Right.
So yeah, it's honestly like I'm still really kind of shocked that I haven't changed anything, but it's just a sign that I really did find the right things because I don't want to change anything else.